It's a little bit after 6:30. Good evening, everybody. I'm Bob Surrey, President of the Southport Historical Society, and I want to welcome all of you and thank you for joining us this evening. We're doing the meeting over Zoom and also live streaming to Facebook. I'm looking at Facebook on another screen, and it says right now that they're sorry they're having trouble with our video. So maybe we're just on Zoom and we're recording the meeting. Tonight's agenda is, I think everyone's going to be really interested. We have some wonderful guests, and those guests will also turn into speakers as the evening goes on. And I think you're going to enjoy meeting them. Liz, you want to put up the flag and we can do the Pledge of Allegiance? And for the pledge, would everybody unmute themselves? I don't do solo that well.
Okay, there's the agenda, Bob. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about the agenda, or are we good?
We're good. No, we're good.
Flag.
Okay, the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
to the
republic of which it stands,
one
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Let's go back a moment to the agenda if you can, Liz. All right. Thank you. Is Annette Clemens here?
I am.
You are. All right. Hi, Annette.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you. Good to see you again.
Thanks. You too.
We'd like you to do an opening prayer for us.
Certainly. Let us pray. Oh, for 1,000 tongues to sing my great Redeemer's praise, the glories of my God and King, the triumph of his grace. Merciful Father, we bow tonight in humble submission to you, oh God. We thank and we praise you for this day, oh God. This day, the one that we had never seen and one that we shall never see again. But God, we thank you for all that you have done for us thus far in this day. We thank you, oh God, for those that are on the Zoom, oh God. We ask that you bless and you keep them, oh God. And Father God, we thank you for all that is going to take place on tonight. We pray, God, that it be pleasing in thine sight, oh God. Lord, we thank you for those who have put this program together. We ask that you bless them back, oh God. This is your service prayer, and I pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I just want to make a couple of announcements before we go into to meet our guests. I'm really pleased to announce and to tell you all that thanks to the leadership of Nancy Christensen and her committee of docent advisors, the Society's Pride and Joy, the Brunswick County Old Jail Museum, will be open for the summer-fall season at 12:30 p.m. next Wednesday, June the 2nd. Now, we're with an abundance of caution and concern for everybody's health. People visiting the old jail will be asked to wear masks, and because of the tightness of the rooms within the jail, we'll also be doing some social distancing as well. But it's exciting to have the jail come open. I know Nancy Christensen, who is the curator, and the docents who make the old jail possible, are excited to get started and have laid out some plans. So the jail will be open starting next Wednesday, every Wednesday and Saturday afternoon from 12:30 to 3:30, and there will be giving docent guided tours of the old jail to all visitors. I also want to note too, though, that the City of Southport's Fort Johnston Museum and Visitors Center will be open. Well, you know, its opening will be on June 1st, okay? And the Museum and Visitors Center will be open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So the Society has 3 rooms of exhibits in the Fort Johnston Museum. So I really invite you all to visit us in our museum at the old jail or at Fort Johnston. We've done some new things, I would bet, since you've been in last, okay? And look forward to greeting you there. Now I'd like to really go into the program, and like to ask Desiree Bridge to take us through the next section, which is the Susie Sellers Carson Scholarship Award winner. Desi?
Good evening. I first want to do some really quick thank yous for the help I got this year with it being COVID and everything. It was just an interesting year. So I am going to first thank my readers, Carolee and Ken and Marie, for taking the time to read all these wonderful papers we got in. I am definitely thanking Liz for helping me out, especially on the technical end, because I am the worst when it comes to modern technology. And for Bob's help also, especially when he was able to step up for us on the scholarship night that South Brunswick had. And he did a very photogenic photo op with our winner. So our students this year, I don't know if you guys remember, they had 2 topics they could choose from. One was Anna Clemens, fighting for the right to vote. And the other was the history of the Cape Fear River lighthouses. And we had 10 applicants this year, and they did really, really good jobs. But one just all of us agreed on straight away, and that was Caroline and her paper on Anna Clemens. She did a phenomenal job on her paper, because not only did she accurately write about history, but she wrote it in a way that pulled you in and you wanted to learn more. We're going to do things a little differently tonight compared to what we've done in the past. Liz has already sent out a formatted copy of Caroline's paper for y'all to read. If you haven't read it yet, definitely download it and read it. It's a wonderful book, or excuse me, it should be a book, essay. I'm actually going to ask Caroline a couple questions so you all can get to know her a little better, and kind of, you're not in person, but in a way you all are getting to meet our 2021 winner of the scholarship. So Caroline, if you're ready. All right, so my first question is, what pulled you in to choose Anna Clemens as your subject?
So after looking at the different, or the 2 different topics, I started doing a little bit of research on both of them. And then after looking at Anna Clemens, like, fighting for the right to vote, that just kind of drew me in more than like the history of the Cape Fear lighthouses is interesting, but I felt that the other one was a bit more interesting to me. And so I've also been learning about the amendments and the right to vote and everything like that in my AP government politics class, and I also learned about that in my AP US history class, which Ms. Bryan was my teacher. And so that was kind of interesting to me because I was able to tie it into some other things that I was learning at school as well.
Excellent. I've noticed when I was looking at your amazing resume that you kind of sent in with it, that you do a lot of community work. Why do you feel that's important? And do you see yourself continuing that when you go on to college?
So yes, ma'am. I've worked with a few different organizations, mainly Matthew's Ministry, throughout my whole entire middle school and high school years. I feel like that's just something that's really fulfilling for me, just watching students and other people in our county just having like positive like benefits from that kind of stuff. So I usually like pick up food or help Ms. Disbrow pack food at the food pantries, and then I also deliver it to schools or just to her facility. And it's something that I've been able to see in my own school and as well as my mom's classroom, because she's a second grade teacher, and I've seen it definitely impact her students as well. So it's just something that is really fulfilling for me to know that I can help people in the community around me.
Excellent. So you'll be going to North Carolina State University. Do you know what you want to focus in yet?
So I'm hoping to go into the psychology field. So right now, just as a freshman, it's harder to transfer into that field. So I'm hoping to be able to start that my second semester of my freshman year. And it's something that's always been really intriguing to me, just seeing how people's brains just kind of work and function, and seeing just that kind of work in our world. So that's just something that's always kind of been super interesting to me, and I hope to be able to continue that throughout my college career.
Excellent. And then one other question that I have for you is, what made you want to take your paper to the next level and go beyond the research materials that we already had and find living descendants of Anna Clemens?
So after doing some research, I was curious to like her lineage in Southport, just because there's, I know a lot of Clemenses in Southport in this area. So I started thinking, I was like, my second grade teacher, Miss Clemens, I wonder if she could be related. And so then we reached out to her, and she was able to provide just some family memories and things like that. And then just like papers and just different things that I can look at just to get a better understanding of Anna Clemens, and just to learn more about her, not only just from the internet, just like take it a step further, like you said, just to find out more information from someone who has more information than I can really find, and who knows from her family and has heard stories and stuff like that.
Excellent. Well, one of the great things about having our scholarships is the fact that a lot of the students just kind of find a subject and they just want to learn more about it. And you did a wonderful job. And so am I correct in assuming that Annette Clemens was your second grade teacher?
Yes, ma'am.
That is so cool. Well, I'm going to switch it over. Thank you so much, Caroline. And so much. Liz is going to talk to Annette, and we're going to get some more from her, but you did a wonderful job, Caroline.
So that's wonderful. I didn't realize that was the connection, that that you guys had known each other since Caroline was a little girl. So both you and Jennie must be really proud of how she's turned out and what she's done. So that's wonderful. So Annette, so one of the things that we were really impressed with what Caroline did was that she did an interview, with someone in Anna's family. So, and then beyond that, you were able to provide a document that we had never seen before, that we've now been able to add to the Susie Carson research room. And so we're very excited that this sort of come full circle, that, I think one of the reasons that Desi picked this topic was because we're trying to let more people know about Anna Clemens and raise awareness. And then for it to come full circle, that then we got more information about her because of this essay. So that was a wonderful thing. So tell me about your aunt. Tell me about how you learned about her, or what you learned about her work. Annette, if you can hear me.
Of course, she died in '56, and I was not born yet.
Right.
So I would have to listen to bits and pieces from the family. And I remember my uncle, who was also in education, we called him Jimbo. He would always say to me, "Annie, get your gun." And I never understood why he would say that to me. And it was because Annie was known for always carrying a gun with her. She carried a pistol.
Okay.
And that was because the type work that she did, well, I won't call it work, but her mission was to be able to vote. And she knew that some things that she did would actually put her life and her family in danger. So she carried the pistol to protect herself. But she was a hard worker. She was a go-getter. When she sunk her teeth into something, she didn't let it go. She was just determined. But unfortunately, she died before she was able to complete some of the things that she was working so hard for. But my dad would talk about her and said that just how hard she would work. She was raised on a farm. And I remember the farmhouse being here on 133, it's right near Old Baker Road here in Southport. And I remember going up there with my dad to feed the pigs. Or when the pigs got out, we had to go chase them and get them back in. But Annie helped work on the farm also. So like I said, she was a hard worker. And when Caroline contacted me, I started going through some things that my dad's sister had. And she passed them on to my dad. And that's when I found the handwritten obituary and was able to pass that on to Caroline.
That's wonderful. So, and now we have a copy of it in the Susie Carson research room for people to see. So that was really wonderful. And now, had the family been aware of the letters that she wrote to the National Women's Party before this all came out about a year or so ago?
No.
No, yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
So it's
as far
really,
as I know, they were not.
Yeah, it seems like she kind of kept it quiet. So Caroline, for those of you who haven't read Caroline's essay, she did include the letters, the bodies of the letters in the essay. You'll be able to see the ones that that Anna wrote to the National Women's Party, the National Women's Party response to that, it really gives some information about what life was like in Southport at that time and what Anna was like. And then of course, Caroline did a good job of analyzing that and what it meant for women's rights. So because unfortunately, even though the 19th Amendment did pass in 1920, and Black people in Brunswick County were still unable to vote. And so Anna decided to push the envelope there. So, and then you recently portrayed Anna in a video that we're putting together and trying to further highlight that. So that was wonderful, Annette. So
Yes.
thank you very much,
Yes.
and thank you for stepping in to do the blessing. And thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have questions for Annette or Caroline? Okay, Bob, next on the agenda.
I just want to tell Caroline, as usual, I'm proud of her. So proud of you, Caroline.
Thank you.
And I will absolutely echo that for sure.
Hello.
Okay, so Bob, you're on mute. Oh,
I'm not anymore. Okay. Caroline, we're also very, very proud of you. And as Desi and others have said, you did a great job with that essay. And we're happy that you'll be the recipient of the scholarship from the Southport Historical Society. And just a note on that, I think we're now as a society well over $30,000 of scholarship funds that have gone out over the years. So that's a thrill for us to be part of that as well. I think the next item on the agenda is to go back to Liz to introduce Jennie Bryan.
all right. So our guest speaker for the evening is Miss Jennie Bryan. And in addition to having taught Caroline as part of her claim to fame, she is also the AP US and World History teacher for South Brunswick High School. She is the 2020-2021, it's a lot of 20s, Brunswick County Schools Teacher of the Year. And she is the 2021 Burroughs Wellcome Fund Southeast Regional Teacher of the Year. And she's also involved in the National History Day program, which I'm sure she's going to tell us more about. And we've been fortunate enough to have 2 of her students come and present to us at the Historical Society. So it's been really nice to learn from the high school students, and we hope that more students will be interested in presenting in the future. So Jenny, it's up to you.
All right, thank you. Give me just a moment and I'll share my screen. All right. So good evening, everyone. Thank you, Liz, for that introduction. And again, just want to reiterate how proud I am of Caroline, and just wish you all the luck at NC State next year. So I'm here this evening to do what I say, illuminate local history in the 912 social studies classroom. First, just a bit about myself. As was already stated, I was first named the South Brunswick High School Teacher of the Year, then Brunswick County, and then in December, I was named the 2021 Burroughs Wellcome Fund Southeast Regional Teacher of the Year. And so I am one of a group of 9 teachers from across the state who will be working in 2021 and into 2022 on just promoting North Carolina public schools and public educators, both our students and our teachers. I have been teaching high school social studies for 11 years. I began my career at South Brunswick High School in 2009. Took a little bit of a gap from Brunswick County when I traveled with my husband to Pitt County, where he did dental school, and we've been back in Brunswick County since 2018. So again, my hope by the end of tonight, you will have a better understanding of specifically 912 social studies, what I'm currently trying to do in my classes, or what I've been done in the past, and then hopefully also inspire future opportunities and partnerships between South Brunswick High School Social Studies and the Southport Historical Society. So I am a Southeastern North Carolina native. I'm not a Brunswick County native, but I grew up just down the road in Columbus County. I grew up in Hallsboro, but graduated from Whiteville High School. And I grew up a quarter-mile down the road from the ancestral home that my great-great-grandparents built. And I have a very large extended family. And I think it's because I grew up so kind of close to the home place, as we call it, and I grew up hearing a lot of stories about family history. I think honestly that's kind of how I kind of caught the history bug. When I went to UNC Chapel Hill, I majored in history, and as part of that time there, I did an honors thesis, and my honors thesis focused on my hometown. It was the Whiteville Junior Women's Club and their efforts during World War II to sell war bonds and support troops and things like that. And then I expanded upon that research to include, the next year I expanded that research to include kind of North Carolina Federation of Women's Club as a whole and what they did to promote the war effort. So thinking about local history has always been something that I have valued since I was a little girl, and I continue to value that now that I'm an educator. Sometimes it's a matter of figuring out the time and the place and the resources and how to make it all fit in on top of the different standards and the curriculum that we're given from the state that we have to teach. So I'm hopeful that this is just the beginning of a very great partnership that we can figure out how to infuse local history into what we're doing even more than we already are. So like I have there on the slide, I'm a Tar Heel, graduated with a BA in history from there. And then I did attend Wake Forest for a short period of time. I have my master's in education from Wake Forest University. So let's see, 8 of my years teaching have been in Brunswick County, and then I taught for 4 years in Pitt County at South Central High School. And I'm a mom to 4-year-old Chloe. I recognize some familiar faces out there in the crowd, so I know several of you know Chloe. And my husband, Bryan, practices dentistry in Southport. So just a little bit about myself. So sometimes people just don't really know what is taught when in North Carolina public schools in terms of social studies. So this is just a snapshot overview of the different course scopes and the sequences in which things are taught, the grades in which different subjects are covered. There are changes underway in social studies for North Carolina. That's not unusual. There are changes and updates to curriculum made in all subjects about every 10 years. And so we'll start rolling out these new courses and these updated standards over the course of the year. I have shared this presentation with Liz, and if Liz, I don't know if you could maybe put a link to the presentation in the chat box, or it can be sent out to you later, but I do have links embedded within these slides. So if you are interested in taking a closer look at what all is involved, for example, in the kindergarten curriculum, the world around us, you could click this link and it would take you to this website where you can go in and take a deeper dive and a closer look at our curriculum standards. That this is something that the state provides us. But what's most relevant to us that I'll point out to you is where our opportunities for local history are. And many of you may already be familiar with this, the 4th grade North Carolina history course. Then that's North Carolina history is once again infused in 5th grade as part of a greater study of U.S. history. North Carolina U.S. history comes again around in the 8th grade. And then at the high school level, students will have the option to take either American history at either an honors or an on-level course, or AP U.S. history. And I do teach that AP U.S. history course. That's the course that Caroline took. And that's generally, students are going to generally take that in either the 10th or 11th grade. Also, and the very next thing I'm going to highlight and spend some time talking about is the opportunity for National History Day participation. National History Day is open to students in grades 6 through 12. Of course, my experience has been limited to the 9 through 12 age range, but it's definitely a cool opportunity that gives students and teachers the opportunity to do some unique and authentic research. So I'm going to actually play this video so you all can get just a little bit of a glimpse into what that National History Day experience is like.
Jenny, we're not hearing the sound. Is there sound for this?
One moment. Sorry about that.
Right.
I can fix that. I think I can fix that.
I think you have to get out of screen sharing and hit optimize sound.
Yep,
okay,
got it.
You know.
Yep.
National History Day is a unique opportunity for students to take charge and explore the past in a creative, hands-on way.
But I think one of the great attractions of National History Day is having that variety.
You're not just learning something to do well on a test, you're learning something to really understand history.
You're able to mix your schoolwork and learning with something I actually love to do.
So if you love to act, if you like designing websites, if you like making movies, I think it opens up this wide spectrum of choices for kids that want to talk about history.
The critical thinking that comes through National History Day is so important. The fact that they have to do research.
They learn how to analyze the sources that they've found.
Being able to contextualize, understand, when that source was written.
It's much bigger than just learning about one topic in history.
And it gets students just excited because they're not only learning about history, but they get to share it with a wider audience.
The motto is, it's not just a day, it's an experience. I would amend that to say it's a life-changing experience.
The writing skills they've learned, the critical thinking skills they've learned have all gone to help them when they've gotten to the college level.
I kind of want to be a reporter now.
I really want to go into anesthesiology.
I'm actually shadowing a neurologist.
I want to go into clinical psychology and get my PhD.
We have found that it prepares them for the workforce in a way that no other program really does.
you learn the skills that you're going to use for the rest of your life. And you also learn teamwork, and you learn empathy, and you learn the love of learning. And that'll be an important part of who you are forever.
So I first became acquainted with the National History Day program when I was teaching in Pitt County. And the way that we operated National History Day at my school there is it was a club. So in other words, this is for students who were genuinely interested in doing authentic historical research that was going to be something beyond the scope of their traditional history classroom. And I would work with anywhere from 6 to 12 students in a given year who were focused in on a particular topic, a topic of their choice. Students can choose really any topic from U.S., world, or state or local history. In fact, National History Day encourages students to choose topics of state and local relevance and significance, as long as they're able to place it into a larger historical context. And I've had the privilege to take students to compete at their local levels, the state level, at the North Carolina Museum of History, and I've accompanied 2 students on 2 different occasions to the University of Maryland for the national level of competition. So a bit more about the process for students. Each year, National History Day selects a theme. The 2021 theme is communication in history. And so again, as long as students can make a connection between their topic and that theme, then it's good to go. So students then spend time conducting authentic primary and secondary research. They have to compile a pretty robust annotated bibliography that shows a pretty significant breadth and variety of resources. Then students get to display their findings, and they have a variety of methods in which they can do that. They can write a historical paper, produce a website, a documentary, an exhibit, or a performance. And then again, they compete at the local level, which is traditionally held at the Cape Fear Museum in Wilmington for our area, and then the state level competition in Raleigh at the North Carolina Museum of History, and the national competition is traditionally held at the University of Maryland. Now, last year and then this year again, the competition is virtual. In fact, this year I do not have students who are participating in National History Day. Just with everything going on, that was going to be a big thing to tackle. So, but I miss it, and I am very excited to get back to it next year and hopefully recruit a new group of students, as some of my students who have participated in the past are going to be graduating. And I also find that my junior and senior level students, once they get to that point in high school, their schedules really do become pretty intense, and that sometimes limits the time they have to spend doing a National History Day project. Not saying that they can't do it, but priorities sometimes and demands on their time sometimes become a little bit more intense once they hit their junior and senior year. A few projects that I'm particularly proud of. This project of a student I had in Pitt County, her name was Serena Chu. The year's theme that year was leadership and legacy. And she chose to study Dr. Annie Lowry Alexander, who was the first licensed female physician in the state of North Carolina from Mecklenburg County. I'm going to let the news story speak for itself as to the impact that Serena's research had.
And here's an encouraging story. Most high school students strive for good grades, but one local student has gone above and beyond on a project that will soon literally mark history. Mackenzie Roberts is live now with this story. Mackenzie.
And highway historical markers can be seen in various locations across our state to indicate areas or people of historical significance. And in just a few weeks, another marker will be going up in Charlotte, thanks to a student right here in the East. South Central High School student Serena Chu sits with social studies teacher Jennie Bryan as they scroll through the website she created for the 2015 National History Day competition. Then a 9th grader, Chu decided to participate in the extracurricular project by researching the life of Dr. Annie Alexander.
During the 19th century and 20th century, not a lot of female were accepted to become a physician or any other professions. So she worked really hard to get her license and open her own office.
In 1885, Alexander became the first woman to practice medicine in North Carolina, a career Chu also hopes to pursue.
Because she worked with not only her community but also people outside America, I feel like I'm really interested in doing that too, helping people from around the world.
After competing on the regional, state, and national level, Chu was encouraged to nominate Alexander for a historical marker. Now, nearly 2 years later, that marker will soon be unveiled.
I was really excited and honored and happy that her story will be known to more people because I feel like her life story is really interesting.
This is going to be in Uptown Charlotte and a part of North Carolina's history, for the long term.
Bryan says it's important for students like Chu to become active participants in history.
I think it keeps students engaged and inspired. As Serena said, she too wants to go into the medical field, although selfishly I hope she keeps a toe in history and doing historical research.
Now, the marker will be located at 400 North Tryon Street in Charlotte, where Bryan says Dr. Alexander practiced medicine for more than 30 years. It will be unveiled during a ceremony on December 20th, where Chu will also be recognized. Anna.
All right. Thanks, Mackenzie. The Highway Historical Marker Program is sponsored.
Okay, so that was certainly a thrilling and exciting experience, and again, it was just so cool for Serena to see that her research and her work and her advocacy for Dr. Annie Alexander to be recognized in a more substantial and significant way in our state. That was just a really wonderful experience for her and for me as her teacher. With my students here at South Brunswick High School, Lexi Jones, as Liz mentioned, has presented with her uncle, Randy, I believe. The two of them presented pre-COVID times in person on her research on the quarantine station and the growth of Dozier Hospital. And then last year, during quarantine times, I think it may have been one of the first Tuesday talks that maybe you all had to do via Zoom. Alex Patterson, who will be he's a rising senior at South Brunswick. Both he and Lexi are rising seniors. He produced a documentary on the blockade runners of the Lower Cape Fear, and I've linked again to both of these. Those presentations are a bit longer, so we won't watch those together, but I have linked those there if you haven't had the chance to see either Lexi or Alex's work. And now you can see there the themes that accompany each year. They have announced the 2022 theme. There's not a whole lot of information out yet about it, but I did.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Did you know that we're not seeing your slides anymore?
No, I did not know that.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. So today was our last day of school, and so we've been doing exams. So it's actually been a few days since I've had to be on Zoom, and I can tell I'm already out of practice. So my apologies. I was getting ready to announce the 2021-22 National History Day theme is going to be Debate and Diplomacy in History, Successes, Failures, and Compromises. So what I'm asking you all to do is to begin brainstorming local topics that students in the fall could choose to research, potentially something that is of local significance. I don't know if any come to mind right now. Feel free to share them now or as you think of them. But that's one opportunity that we have for you all to help me kind of think through what some opportunities for local history might be with this theme. Any questions about National History Day before we move forward? Okay, so we will go ahead and move on just to some other ways that I try to connect my students with local history. So this past year, Jim McKee joined us via Zoom to discuss local stamp act resistance from the Brunswick town area. And pre-COVID, as you can see in this image here, I had a group of students join me at the Brunswick Civil War Roundtable event for the discussion again, just so happened to be Jim McKee was the speaker that evening talking about Fort Anderson. And so, I find that students, generally are interested and willing to go out into the community to participate and to learn more about the place it is that they live. I definitely would be interested in setting up more kind of guest lectures, especially even though we wouldn't necessarily have to do it via Zoom. I think there's definitely benefits to being able to do it through Zoom, just in terms of coordinating schedules and eliminating travel logistics and things like that. So I think there's definitely some opportunities there. In the past, students have had the opportunity to explore local history and get extra credit at the same time. This is actually some of Caroline's work from her junior year. So what I did with this assignment is I listed out a lot of the key concepts that we had studied that semester, and that's what's in black here over in this column. And students had to go out either into the community or onto online resources. I have to keep in mind that not all of my students may have the transportation and flexibility to get to some of our local history sites. And so I gave them the option to do some digital scavenger hunts as well to find information about local history that related to that broader concept from AP US History. So students had to go on, find the local examples of evidence, and if it was a digital resource that they found, then they could just provide the link to where they got it from. Or as you can see, if they actually went out to the site, which Caroline did. Caroline went to the Southport Maritime Museum and took a selfie with the evidence that she found. And I had several students take me up on this offer, especially once they found out that there'd be some extra credit tied to it. This is something I did not do with my students this past year, but now that we'll have more of our local history sites hopefully open in the fall of 2021, I'll definitely bring back this opportunity for students to pursue. And then lastly, something that I did this year for the first time, after our AP exams had concluded, we had some downtime for students. And so I invited students to go into and explore the Susie Carson Research Room. I introduced it, even though these students that I was working with were primarily juniors, I went ahead and told them about the Susan Sellers Carson Scholarship, to be looking out for information coming about it next year, and went ahead and asked them to familiarize themselves with the resources that were available on the Susie Carson Research Room so that they would feel comfortable with it and navigating it when it comes time for next year's scholarship. And so that's kind of the extent of what I've been doing recently with local history, but I definitely have a lot of ideas for future opportunities. When I was at South Central, we had a chapter of the Rho Kappa National Social Studies Honor Society. This honor society has only been in existence for maybe 7 or 8 years, but it is for students who have taken a certain number of honors or AP social studies courses and who have attained a certain or maintained a certain GPA in those courses, and who have also done work in the community to promote history, and to who are engaging in leadership and service. I would love for us to get a Rho Kappa organization off the ground at South Brunswick High School. There is a cost associated with getting a charter for that organization, and then always an opportunity to have some community sponsors and some community mentors for our student clubs and organizations. I kind of envision that that as a prerequisite for participation in Rho Kappa National Honor Society, that students have to participate in National History Day at least 1 year out of their 4 years to be able to graduate with those Rho Kappa honors. Another idea that I have that I think would especially be helpful for our 4th and 5th grade teachers, or 8th and high school too as well, but you have such a wealth of resources that have been digitized to create some digital scavenger hunts pertaining to topics that are relevant to our North Carolina and U.S. history curriculum. Some things that are kind of pre-made that teachers can use with their students. So any work that you all could put towards that would be, I know, a tremendous help for our teachers. And lastly, and this is kind of like the big ask, is that some type of local history symposium be made available and be offered to our social studies teachers in Brunswick County schools. I will share with you that one of the changes coming to our social studies curriculum statewide is a shift towards teaching historical thinking skills. So it's not just about teaching the names and the dates and the facts, but it's about teaching students how to develop historical questions, how to find sources, analyze sources, develop thesis statements, make claims and support those claims with evidence, and then present that information. And so I kind of envision maybe some 3-day institute where teachers come together and learn about Brunswick County history, Southport history, and then use the resources to develop some historical inquiries for their students to participate in. So that's kind of like the big vision that I have that just could be really cool moving forward. Lots of details, of course, would need to be hammered out, but that would be something that I would be very, very interested in partnering with you all on moving forward. And with that, I would love to take any questions that you all have. And my email address is there, as well as, I don't know if any of you are on Twitter. I do kind of do my professional social media activities through Twitter. So I invite you to follow me at @JBiserBryan if you're so inclined.
Jenny, I have a question.
Yes.
How about the travel funding for these national competitions? Is that arranged, or do they have to pay their own way?
Yeah, so generally students and families are, responsible for paying their own way, like to get up to Washington, D.C. They do provide housing on the campus of University of Maryland, once they get to that level. And so it's not this, it's a bit more cost efficient than trying to book a hotel in the DC area. But in the times past, there's been some fundraising done to support the two different ladies who had the opportunity to go and participate. The state, I want to say that the state museum might pay for like the registration at the national level, but then like lodging and travel, all that is up to the students to work on that.
Okay. Thank you.
I had just a few questions. I appreciated the listing of what topics are taught per grade. Are there field trips that South Brunswick High School or all kinds of grades take in Brunswick County? Like in New Hanover County, each grade is associated with one particular field trip. Is there that type of institution in Brunswick County?
And I'm going to ask Ms. Clemens to help me out with this, and Caroline as well, since you as a Brunswick County school student, you might even know better than I do. Generally, and this is just for me asking my students about it in the past, when I ask my students, have you guys ever been to Brunswick Town or Fort Anderson? They're like, yeah, we went in the 4th grade. So I know that historically has been a trip that occurs. The AP language teacher and I did take students to Cameron Art Museum last year. So it is possible, but at the high school level, there's not like a designated grade level field trip that we're definitely going to do this. In the past, I have taken students to Raleigh. We went and visited the General Assembly. This is back when I was teaching civics, when I first started teaching. So I have taken students to the General Assembly and to the North Carolina Museum of History. But it's more kind of teacher, at the high school level, it's more teacher driven and teacher initiated than it is, okay, it's the official 10th grade field trip to Raleigh or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Jennie, I have a question, and maybe it's half question and half comment.
Sure.
I have put a lot, as others have, I've put a lot of work into the SCRR, and I'm really curious, how did the system hold up to the students? How did it do?
Yeah, I mean, I scaffolded it a bit. In other words, I had kind of 3 sections of that scavenger hunt that I set up for them. I wanted them to explore the history of African American education in Brunswick County. So I had them looking at the training school and the Rosenwald School documents.
Right.
And then I had them go, just because I thought they were really neat, explore, I believe it was Corporal Hutton's documents of World War I and World War II. And then I directed them to the topic list and said, okay, choose another topic of interest to you and explain to me what you learned about this topic and how it connects to the broader topics that we've studied of U.S. history. And a lot of students were interested in two big things. One was the Amuzu Theater, the history of that. And the second was the Bolivia plane crash of 1960.
Oh, okay.
It seemed like I had a lot of students going to those couple of topics, and some others in between. But I think it held up well. From what I can gather, I didn't ask them specifically for their feedback on ease of navigation, but I didn't have any complaints that came up, or hey, I just can't find this. I can't find this. But I think especially for something that would be user friendly for lower grades, I think having some scaffolding built in of having kind of the links to the particular documents already selected, and then you tell students, okay, go to this link, look at this particular document, tell me what you see, tell me what you learn, tell me what questions you have.
That's interesting. The Bolivia plane crash. There's a ton of information because the Southport pilot they won awards for their reporting on the crash. But it's actually, you mentioning that as the first time, and I guess because the system's about 5 years old, that's the first time I've ever heard of anybody going in and looking at that information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
well, it is wonderful what you all have done there. And I told students the day that I assigned this, I said, it's okay if you get lost down a rabbit hole and just spend time going through documents. Like, that's fun. That's what it's about, just to kind of go and look and get lost in the documents. That's okay.
Cool.
I've got to make a plug, and I apologize. I know it's Southport Historical Society, but Old Baldy has a system that was based off of the Susie Carson room, the online room. I mean, it's the same concept, the same technology with Google Drive. So if you go to oldbaldy.org, as in the lighthouse, there's a very similar system of subject files that would be great for high schoolers or with some scaffolding, some younger students to be using. That kind of takes a look at the other side of the river in Brunswick County.
Great, thank you.
I love your ideas. I'm so excited, and I'm thinking of more ideas even as we sit here. So I think this is wonderful, and I'm excited that the students are interested, even if it's the Music Theater and Bolivia plane crash. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
and we did a program with the owners, the family that owns the Music Theater in March. I don't know if you saw it, but it was one of our most popular programs. Everybody loves the Museo, and it's been family owned for over 100 years. So it's great to be able to work in some history around it, as well as, it's cool that the movies that were filmed there and things. So
sure.
That's great. Does anybody have questions for Jennie?
Well, I think we can certainly give her a lot of compliments, if not questions, for the presentation. And thank you so much for what you do for the kids.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's my pleasure, especially when you're working with students like Caroline.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Jennie and Caroline and Liz and Desi for this. We had and Annette as well. We had quite a conversation. It was I really enjoyed, and I think we have some interesting challenges. No, excuse me, opportunities as we go forward. Liz, would you want to talk about some upcoming programs?
Yeah, let me just share my screen here real quick. And this is what we have upcoming in June. So Ms. Desiree Bridge, who has been talking to us tonight, is going on the 1st. She's continuing her quarterly series on plant lore. And this will be summer, since it's June 1st, she'll be doing summer. And she says, if you find history, botany, and folklore interesting, then you should join her as she presents her 4-part series, Plant Lore Through the Seasons. And she's going to talk about how the seasons affected the timing for planting, harvesting, and preserving, as well as the folk traditions people practiced. And each discussion will include recipes and crafts for you to try at home. And if you haven't seen Desi present, you're in for a treat, because she's really a very engaging, very fascinating presenter. So highly recommend that. And then let's see, our Tuesday talk, we're going to have Ginger Harper is going to talk about the Southport Heritage House, which was a fun and long-standing tradition of the Southport Women's Club. She's also going to be talking about some of the women in the Harper family, Margaret Harper and Jessie Stevens Taylor. And of course, Margaret Harper was the first woman in North Carolina to run for a statewide public office when she ran for lieutenant governor. And then Jessie Stevens Taylor was the weather observer in Southport for well over 50 years. And so it's an interesting family. And so she's going to be talking about all of that on June 8th. And then on June 15th, I'm going to be doing the second in my series of Southport in Love and War, and talking about Southport people in World War II. And I'm going to be talking about Joy Arnold and her husband, George Gregory. And Joy Arnold was sort of Southport's Rosie the Riveter. She was really more of a Wendy the Welder, but we're going to be talking about her experiences during the war. And her husband was a frogman in the Pacific and in Okinawa. So we're talking about a lot of their experiences during World War II, and of course how they met and fell in love and got married. So those are our topics for June, and we're going to be starting a new program soon. Those of you who participated last year, remember we did a Color Me Southport series last year. We did 15 programs in 15 weeks. That's the COVID version. Now that we're coming out of COVID, we're going to do a monthly version, one a month, much more sedate. Pat Carney, who did the Color Me Southport coloring book, has created a second edition of that. And so she has, I think it's 15 more Southport landmarks that she has done these illustrations of. And so we'll be setting up programs where we can all color along if we want. It's optional, but we'll have people talk about those iconic landmarks and the history of those. So keep an eye on the newsletters, the emails that are coming to you, and I'll tell you specifics about that as it happens. But her book is out for sale if anybody wants it. And then our most popular program, Southport Storyteller with Mike Royal. Mike grew up in Southport. He tells wonderful stories. He lives in Texas now, but due to Zoom, he's been able to join us. And unfortunately, Mike is away for the summer, but we are looking forward to him returning in September and having more stories to share with us about his wonder years in growing up in Southport in the 50s and 60s. And the very last thing I want to mention is Memorial Day gathering on Memorial Day, Monday, May 31st, from 2 to 4 at the Old Smithville Burying Ground. And there's an opportunity to take a look at the history of the cemetery and to talk about the future of the cemetery and to have some cake, which I think is always a nice touch. Pat, do you want to talk a little bit more about this?
Yes, thanks for the opportunity to do that. Cheryl Daniel and Musette Steck and I, all three past presidents of this historical society, have become concerned about our cemetery and our historic cemetery, the Old Smithville Burying Ground. And we would like to invite you to this Memorial Day gathering coming up Monday afternoon between 2 and 4, just to come drop by sometime during those 2 hours to see and observe what is happening or not happening in the burying ground in the old cemetery, and just to see what kind of interest there may be out there from our public, and especially perhaps from those of us in the Historical Society who might be interested in maybe even forming a Friends of the Burying Ground organization. Southport has a lot of friends of, and perhaps this will be an opportunity to generate some interest in that, or at least to have an opportunity to come into the cemetery if you haven't done that in a very long time, and especially to those of you who have ancestors buried there. We would very much like to see you and walk over to your ancestors' grave with you and maybe hear a little bit of history about them. So 2 to 4 on Monday afternoon, we'll be there. And from the smell of my kitchen, I think there will be pound cake. Thanks, Liz.
Okay, thank you, Pat. That's all I had.
That's all you have? All right. Pat, I can taste that pound cake right now. So I will everyone else stop by for the pound cake, if nothing else. But no, it's a serious situation with the old burying ground, and I think you couldn't have a better trio than Pat, Cheryl, and Musette working towards and helping the Old Smithville Burying Ground.
Well, Musette will be here back in town. We can't do anything at the cemetery without Musette, so she's coming from Durham, and there will be several of us there to answer questions and talk, just to talk and chat. And also, of course, the years that the Historical Society dedicated, about 10 years, to maintaining the cemetery and also putting thousands of dollars into that project, have been appreciated. But now that that is not one of the ongoing projects of the Historical Society, things have kind of not been quite as efficient as they were during that time. So we're hoping that the city and volunteers will get a new vision for an old cemetery.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else you mentioned? I do want to mention to Travis that by tomorrow morning I'll have the Susie Carson Research Room connected and linked to the old Baldy Research Room.
That's sweet. Well, the old Baldy program wouldn't have existed without the Susie Carson. We literally just copied and pasted what y'all were doing. I just wanted to make an announcement. We're still looking for 4 committee members for this year's Christmas tour. Mary Ellen was really very gracious in signing up to serve on the committee. Carol Bailey, But we are looking for 4 positions to fill out that committee. Our particular need is for any professionals in the financial world and any professionals in the kind of marketing world with skills on using Adobe to create basic graphics and format a ticket. So if you know anybody that has some professional experience in finance or marketing, we would greatly appreciate if they would reach out. Bob and Liz might be the most universal person to reach out to, and they of course will get a hold of Carol and I. But we appreciate anyone that would be willing to serve on the committee this year. And there are 4 vacant positions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Travis. Anything else? I think we probably should have a motion to adjourn.
Bob.
Was that Donnie?
Yeah, that's me, Bob.
All right.
Hey,
there you are.
I'm a little under the weather. Yes, that is my name, but no, that's not my picture. He's one of my heroes. I would just like to thank my cousin Annette for stepping in for me. It was last minute notice because I didn't know what time I was going to be getting out of the emergency room. And the young lady who got the award, kudos to her and to Ms. Bryant. Wonderful presentation. Enjoyed it immensely. Thank you again for everybody. And Annette, cuz, thank you. I owe you one.
Okay, and I want to thank you, Donnie. I want to thank Bob Hagerman for seconding that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.